Professor Schwab, thank you so much for joining us today at probably the busiest time of the year for you, with political leaders, business elites, and representatives from diverse sectors coming to Davos for the annual meeting. So to start with, Professor, what do you think we can expect from this year's annual meeting, and why was rebuilding trust chosen as the theme?
First, the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum is taking place at the beginning of the year. And in such a way, it allows global decision makers to take the pulse of the state of the world and to do so in a very integrated, holistic way. And afterwards also to look for common ground and, if possible, to find some solutions for the numerous problems we have today. Now, why did we choose the theme or the motto, rebuilding trust? Right. If we compare the world today with the world before we had the COVID pandemics, we find a completely different mood. First, the world has become very fearful, very fragmented, of course.
Right.
In such a situation, trust have vanished. We have lost trust to a certain extent in each another, because we all have become under the pressure of the crisis, of the multiple crises. We have become more egoistic. So, and if you are more egoistic, you think first of yourself, and this distorts an atmosphere of trust. So if we want to recreate, and that's the objective of the annual meetings this year, we want to recreate a new spirit, a much more constructive spirit. Again, looking forward and having confidence in our future. And that's the reason why we have chosen this theme, rebuilding trust. And trust means you have to be a trustee. If you do not look just after yourself, but if you look after the community you are part of, you are trusted. So theme has in principle two dimensions. First, to regain trust into the future. And second, to remind everybody that we should assume trusteeship for our global community, for our global future, and I should add, for nature.
Well, Professor, according to the newly released report by the World Economic Forum, the Global Risks Report 2024, in which it pointed out that misinformation and disinformation are the biggest short-term risks, while extreme weather and critical change for Earth systems are the biggest long-term concerns. So, Professor, what worries you the most at the moment?
What worries me most is not just one thing. It's several challenges which we have to face simultaneously. And it's not just a crisis. It's a systemic transformation which we witness in the world. Crisis is usually short-term, but the transformation will take some time. So we have first an economic transformation with reshaping of supply chains, with, let's say, the debt loads which we have with inflation and so on. Then we have a geopolitical transformation, because we have moved from a one-polar world to a multipolar world with two big powers, US and China, and many emerging powers like India. Europe is still a power, but you also have here tech companies which have become very powerful actors in the world. So the world has become much more complex, much more fragmented. And of course you have much more tensions in such a world. And unfortunately, some of those tensions have led to actually hot conflicts, to wars. But then we have, in addition, the challenge of the ecological, environmental transformation. We still too much dependent on carbon, I think this year was the hottest year in the world. We have already reached the tipping point of 1.5 centigrades, which scientists say is a point of no return where afterwards you cannot repair anymore the damage which has been done. So we have to do the energy transition. We have to preserve biodiversity. And so on so forth. So it's the geopolitical, the economic, the environmental, and finally you have the technological. I had written in 2016 this book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
And now we are in the exponential phase of the development of some of the technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, particularly artificial intelligence, but also quantum computing, and I could go on and on. So here we have to make sure that those technologies, which will completely change, so it will change the way how we live, it will change business model, it will change competition among countries.
So it seems that you're a little bit concerned about this pessimism that people, the pessimistic attitude that people are holding towards the future.
I'm very concerned about the pessimism because pessimism leads to a certain lethargy. It leads to crisis management.
What do you think could be the new way out?
What we want to achieve at the annual meeting in Davos is to look forward, to look how do we want to end up in a positive way when we go through those transformations.